And it's actually from the book of Esther in the Bible, of all places. It talks about Mordecai, who was a leader in that time.
A leader is also a light in the darkness.
I think differently, and now I believe in myself because I'm around him, and I think even more is possible.
Welcome to Leading Lubbock, the podcast where we spotlight the voices shaping our city and beyond. Each week, we bring you inspiring stories and thought-provoking conversations with leaders who are making a difference in their communities. What makes this journey unique? Every guest is nominated by someone who's already been on the show, creating a chain of leadership that reflects the power of connection and community. Join us as we explore what it takes to lead with purpose and impact. This is Leading Lubbock.
All right, so today we're on the second episode of Leading Lubbock, and we have Cole Whisenhunt here. And Cole, just phenomenal leader. Honestly, when I think of a leader, you were the first person that came to my mind in terms of like in the real estate world, specifically in the industry that I've been in. And just real quick, want to intro who Cole is. Cole is a husband to Abby Whisenhunt and has 4 kids, ranging from ages 4 to 11.
You got it.
And so some of the things that you're doing currently is you're leading a real estate team.
Yeah.
About 8 people.
Yes, sir.
And doing great things here in the Lubbock real estate market. So I love that. Also co-owner of Maverick Roofing.
Yep.
And then coach extraordinaire, right? So you're just like ex-coach. You used to coach over in the school system.
Yep, that's Scott High School.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also currently just that continues on. You're
with kids, man,
for life.
Yeah. I'll be coaching 3 different basketball teams here in a month or so. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's fantastic. So leading all over the place. You're leading people when they're buying homes. You're leading real estate agents. You're leading kids. So
sometimes those kids through practice lead me, but
dude, I get
chase them around. No, it's great. Really proud of our real estate team, what we've done. Our roofing team as we fired that up, and then a few other businesses, and along with our family, man. Huge blessing to have the family we have, and Abby that you mentioned. Probably going to talk about her at some point on here.
Dude, fantastic.
And then the kids, man, they're a huge blessing. So thank you for having me. Super excited to talk about this, man.
Yeah, this is awesome. I know this topic is right up your alley. We're going to get passionate.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. So to you, I would love to know, what does effective leadership look like, and how has that evolved over time?
Man, I'll probably start with the evolved part and realizing that I had so many people be so patient with me and when leading me. And probably didn't realize that at the time, but the longer you go through business, and I realized, man, so-and-so was so patient when I was hard-headed, right? And even us in the past, we worked together, right? Like you giving grace to me and us being partners and just being like, we're starting this business and you got to figure things out. And so many people gave grace and patience. And so me evolving as a leader has definitely become, how do I insert patience for our people? Everybody's on a different journey, different timeline, different talent, skills when they come in. Nobody's going to have it all together when they come in, especially entering industry that we're in. It's tough. There's a lot to it. And so being patient and leading people more than anything, that effective leadership part, I think, is letting people know how much you believe in them and giving them a belief and being consistent in that. I would love people to say, as an effective leader, like every day that they show up to work with me, they would just say, I'm the same person every day. So instead of being super high, super low, bouncing off the walls, new ideas here, it's just like, man, I can count on him. Not going to freak out in any situation. We're going to find a solution, and that I'm going to continue to believe in them. I'm going to continue to have their back and just be that consistent leader all the time is what I want to do, is to be an effective leader.
Yeah. So some of the things that stood out to me, because I don't know if you intended it this way, but there was a lot of humility in that. Initially, when you were answering the question, I'm just hearing you say, like, you're learning, and you even said it maybe even about the kids. Like, I think you get led, right? When you're leading, you're being led if you're humble in seeking that out. So one thing that I know about you, Cole, is you are very attentive to the people who you are leading, and you're very open to being changed or evolving in how you lead, how patient you are, how you navigate the next problems, because you're open to the suggestions and the leading and the guidance of the people that you're leading. So almost like a flip flops. And I heard that in the way you answered that question. And the second piece is I just hear consistency, and same thing over time, same person over time. And I would just love, like, is there somebody that you've seen previously that just like modeled that for you, that made you, like, light bulbs maybe come on?
I mean, you nailed it, man. It's hard to live it out if you haven't seen it, right? When I was coaching high school kids, and you think, man, there's this kid that just doesn't get it, lacking character, whatever it is, and then you take a look at their home life and where they're at, and you say, man, they don't have a model for that. They haven't seen it. And so I think that's why it's so important as business leaders, we get around each other. Our businesses hit new levels, something I'm not going to know how to do on my own. I need to go find it and see it from somebody else, right? So I think a lot of those people that pop up for me in my head are people that made a big impact on me, right? Or parents and business leaders like Tara Newton, a head coach that I worked for, and Tony Wagner. I had a lot of suggestions. It's easy to have a lot of suggestions as the assistant coach, right? And every once in a while I just had to realize, man, he's been here over a decade and now 2 decades there. He's seen this before, right? And I'm going to lean on his wisdom and know that he knows what's best in this situation. And I learned a lot from him in coaching, and a lot of other people. I mean, those are 2 examples, but I think we have to see it to be able to model it. And if you're not seeing it, you got to go find it somewhere to see it.
It's kind of this concept of being like a small fish in a big pond, right?
Yeah.
Like, you never want to be the biggest fish.
Yeah.
Because then you're the lid. You're your own lid at that
That's
point.
great.
So yeah, I love that. Surrounding yourself with people who are just that level ahead, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. So how would you say, like, you embody leadership? And what are, like, and I would say in your daily life, what practices or habits do you find most helpful?
Man, embodying leadership for me, I think, one, I want to show up with energy. So this is going to be, an extension of what we just talked about. Every day to show up with an energy to set the environment, an environment that's encouraging, but an environment that still pushes, an environment where, for a leader to still say, I'm still going to ask you some tough questions. These are still your commitments, right? And we want to have an atmosphere that's not of blaming or excuses. So how do we get there? That's trust. Well, trust is built over time and consistency, over and over, right? Those practical things for that leadership environment is, are you meeting with your people? Are you training them? We have, team rallies, power-ups for inspiration to get started on the day. Almost every day could be tough for some reason, right? Running behind because something happened with a kid. Immediately somebody starts blowing with the phone if something's wrong with a deal, right? Something else in life grabs you or pulls you, or a commitment, or you're in an all-day training and then work starts going crazy. Man, we've got to have each other in a community. And I think that's a big one for our team, at least, is to come together and have community. And I think piece of that for me personally is living that out like Jesus did. And I know, people say that, like, I want that to be number one, where people see that in our world. And we just say, okay, somebody working in our space needs to be getting closer to Christ because they know me and they're around me. And if that's not happening, I got to take a look in the mirror myself, right, as a leader. So just setting the environment for that every single day, and those meetings and business plannings and goals and what we're pushing for, building the trust, still asking those tough questions, and having the environment of, hey, we're going to have competition. Let's get out of our comfort zone. Let's go for it, while they know they can trust me as a leader. And that's tough when somebody hasn't been in that kind of environment before. But one, people, when they initially come in, I can tell they're like, can I trust this? This seems different from where I work. Do they really want my best? Right? Are they also competition within the office? And then after a while, you feel people's guards just start to drop. And it's like, okay, one, I can trust. So now I can be open. So now they step out of their comfort zone. Now, hopefully they're seeing the authenticity of our team, right? And who we like to follow, and higher power and what they have. Man, that is it for me. And I don't even know if I remember the beginning of this question, but I'll get fired up about that, for our space and our environment and what we want for people, man. That's it.
Yeah. Well, one of the parts of the question was, how do you embody leadership?
Okay,
And,
yeah, there we go.
You nailed it. And if there's anything I remember from working alongside you, it's you used like 3 words. You used energy right now when you were answering.
Yeah.
And then you said power from a power up, and
Yeah.
a rally from, I don't even know what you said about team rally.
Team
maybe.
rally,
So I mean, energy, power, rally. Like you're just talking about
Come
this,
on.
like, all right, we got to just drop and do 50 real quick. And
Go-
just
there we go.
let's get going. Do you find that it's hard? I mean, we faced some challenges in real estate this year, past couple of years probably.
Yep.
Do you find that it's hard, like, to muster up, the energy, the powering, the rallying in a time period where it's hard? And if so, how do you do that?
Man, I don't find that piece hard because it's either drilled into me or something that comes natural for me. I think it's a matter for me is all the, hey, let's get this, let's do this activity. Is it going in the right direction at the right time?
Okay.
Am I slowing down to focus and say, do we need to redirect over here? Or do we keep pounding pavement where we've been going? Because it is the track. It's just a little bit harder right now to track.
Okay.
Right. So I think for me, it's more of a focus and reflection. The energy, not so much. Like that's what I'm going to promise people I'm going to show up with. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of, are we focusing on the right thing? Am I helping people think through strategically next steps for them?
Yeah. You're talking intentionality.
For sure.
Like intentionality behind energy, behind the things that already make up you.
If it's not the intentionality, then it's just raw, right?
Yeah.
It's raw to sound good versus, hey, this is a focused energy of where it needs to go and where we need to be.
Yeah.
I think that's the piece that'll get difficult at times when you have a tough market in real estate right now, right? And you can say, should we shift? Should we do something different? Or should we double down where we're at? And then you got to make those decisions. And it might be different for each person's business, right? So that's the tough part.
Yeah, I get it, man.
Yeah.
And I love this about you, because what I'm hearing is like you're saying like that's innate in you. Energy, high energy.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be everybody who's sitting across the table, right?
For sure.
There are going to be people that just like, just lead from a very consistent, just in that there's also strength in that too, but it's the intentionality behind how you're wired, how God made you, and how you're using that to lead others. So I love how you're channeling it, and I'm seeing it as very effective.
Yeah,
the way that you bring people together, keep it moving forward in the right direction.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Okay, you talk about pictures of people. If you meet my mom, right, which you have before, if somebody did, you would know energy, right? So she's got couple different businesses, an Airbnb that she manages, cleans all on her own, an event center where there's weddings and graduations and baby showers every weekend that she's running. I mean, she's doing stuff nonstop, right? And so I grew up getting to watch energy from her and a work ethic, right? So that got to come natural from a great example.
That's fantastic. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what pivotal moment in your career do you think has had the greatest impact on who you are as a leader?
Man, so on the moments, I think more of the people, honestly. So we've talked about before, right? If there's something going wrong in the business, you probably either need a new system or you need a new person.
Yep.
So when I think back to moments, I really think of the people at that time. And man, it starts with my parents. I just got to talk about my mom, right? I probably don't look like a basketball player to most, but I played a lot of basketball, first grade through 12th grade. And man, she missed 3 games of the hundreds of games that I played. And 2 of them were in one day because she was sick. And I played 2 games in a day at a tournament. And another one, my sister was having a baby. She made every other basketball game I ever played, right?
Wow.
So you're talking about she missed less than 1% of games. And so just having somebody that was there all the time, there's lots of those moments and when people talk about, man, my parents burned me out, they were tough on me, and my dad was always yelling at me. My parents, I don't ever remember them telling me I was doing something wrong or I should have done this in a game. I just remember both of them encouraging me and saying, you did great. You played all out, did what you could. This is your best game. My dad, getting to talk about him now, was just constantly, you're going to be the best player that came through here. You're the best shooter every time you go on the floor. Now, whether that was true or not, he made me believe it, right? And so I think about those two. A mentor that I had was Coach Eddie. He became like a grandfather to me. Yeah. Nobody walked out his faith and walked like Jesus to me what I saw in the way that Coach Eddie did. And that meant so much to me. And I can think of moments with him of being in a parking lot. It's 11 o'clock at night. We're loading up the back of the van. It's been basketball from 8 a.m. till we're loading up at 11 p.m. And him just pouring into me about how Christ loves me, right? And all these things for my life, right? I get chills thinking about him now. And then I've got 3 friends that I just consider brothers, man. Peyton Behrens, right? Came here, learned from Dusty Thompson Redeemer Church, planted the church in Brady. CJ Villegas, brother to me growing up, his family is like a second family to me. Aaron Waldrop, right, superintendent at Abernathy ISD. Met in college, been like a brother to me, man. Those guys, they've all taught me something different in watching them. And you talked about humility at the very beginning of this. Dude, those guys have a lot more humility than I do. And learning that from them, like, helped me get to a more mature spot. And then finally, I would say Abby, as my wife. We've been married 15 years. It was not always easy in our relationship. The first year or 2 of marriage, we almost didn't make it. I mean, hard times and counseling, and didn't know really if we want to be married to each other. And that was talked about. And I mean, a lot of hard times. So anyway, I remember hitting my knees in our kitchen in a rent house in Brady. We moved back there for a little while. I was coaching. She was a dental hygienist. That was a moment that stands out to me of like, okay, my willpower is not going to get it done. Like, God, I need your help.
Else.
Like, our marriage needs your help. And I don't know where we're going to move next and what job we're going to take, but we need you in this situation. And then we just started to become closer to Christ, really, each one of us. And then we started to become closer to our marriage, man, which was a transformation. So those people I think about, and I've got too many moments, I think, through them to list, but that's it, man.
I love that. And that picture of just like, who do you surround yourself with? Because to me, what I'm hearing is that matters. I don't think any of the people you said are going to be anybody that brings you down. But probably every time you're around them, you're just kind of like taking up another level. Which I think is huge for us to pause on and say, who am I surrounding myself with? And hopefully the people who choose me in their circle. I mean, you didn't say my name. I was waiting for it, but
definitely awesome.
But honestly, like, I hope that my name comes up as a person that brings somebody up, and if not, that's a self-reflection moment. And also, who am I focused in being around?
That's right.
Because they need to be taking me up a notch too. And so much, man, we could go on all day about this. Because then it's like the people that you've intentionally placed yourself with are people who could be influenced by you. And so taking and being built up over here, now how can that outpour into somebody else? And just like intentionality over and over and over again. Who am I hanging out with? Who's hanging out with me? Who's choosing me? And then who am I going to pour into? So,
man, I think people have heard it so many times now, like, it's washed out. Like, oh yeah, who I hang out with matters. We can't say it enough. And you really can't evaluate it enough. Like, is this person leading you to be a better version of yourself? And for us as Christians or believers, is it leading you closer to Christ, right? Or is it taking me further from who I want to be in the best version of myself? And if you did that with each close relationship you had, you might have to look in the mirror and be like, okay, what am I going to do about that?
That's right. Yeah. And even, what am I listening to? What am I watching? What am I surrounded by? So, yeah. Okay. So what's one lesson that you've learned that you wish you would have learned earlier on in your journey?
Everybody hears this one too, right? It's okay to fail. I mean, that's it. But I'll take it a little bit deeper. Is if I was afraid to fail in the past, there's some sort of fear. And if there was fear, it just meant I was making it about myself. And so there became this time in life where every time that I was nervous or anxious or had some fear, I just started learning, I'm making this about me, right? And you hear that from maybe different podcasts or mentors in your life. But at this point in life now, I feel like quickly I can recalibrate. Okay, I feel a little nervous around that. I feel a little anxious. How am I making this about me right now? And then I go, okay, there it is. Stop doing that. Okay, if we're worried about what people say, that are listening to this, then maybe some nervousness, anxiousness, fear sets in. Okay, so what? Somebody's going to get something great from this. Somebody else may not. Well, there's 10,000 other social media platforms and podcasts, but we know all it takes is one or two people listening to this that maybe it changes them or daily habits or actions in their business. We say, dude, that was a win.
For sure.
Now we hope it's 1,000, right? And it may be, but at the end of the day, I wish I would have learned at a younger age of how to recalibrate quickly and to say, okay, I feel fear. That's about me. Drop my ego, because that's what it is right now. And go focus on the other person and how to bring value to them. And then instantly it's like, I'm not nervous anymore. I'm not nervous. It's just about helping this person, and I'm making it about them. And I want to do that, right? So that's the number one thing is learn how to adjust quickly and get out of my egotistical, selfish way and go serve.
Yeah, man. I think we do that all too often, like the fear, making it about us. But when you tell me a problem, like if something you're facing and you're communicating that with me, I don't get fearful about it, right? Yeah. Unless I'm involved in it. And I got this like objective third party view, and I get to say, hey, Cole, this is what I would do, and in a very calm. And just you get to see multiple angles. And when you're in it, I feel like that's where it's just like, I can't see anything outside but this one thing and what it's going to do to me and I think we can get so caught up in that we stall. We don't give ourselves even the opportunity to fail. And I remember we used to do Fail Forward Fridays, and this it's funny that we're talking about this because this last week I've thought about that more than ever. Like, man, I don't know that I grow when life is good, right? I'm just like, man, I'm things are falling into place right now, but I'm not really getting stretched. I'm not really having these opportunities to have to problem solve, and our growth is in the rub, right? And so we don't experience that unless we move past the fear. And moving past the fear means we could fail. But we will learn.
I love it, man.
Opportunity
Opportunity disguised in adversity. Like it's always there. You're gonna see it.
Absolutely. Well, we got this book sitting up here. I want to talk a little bit about that. One question I asked you before we came on was, what's one book that's profoundly impacted you in your life? And it's a tough question. I mean, I acknowledge it. I haven't even asked myself it. I think I'd have an answer, but you were pretty quick on this book. And so I'd love to dive into, you can tell us a little bit about the title, who wrote it, and what's going on. How did it have an impact?
Well, you said it. There's a lot of great books, and I've recommended a lot of other books. I was thinking, what is one that's not talked about much, or a little bit older book that we could go back to? So it's Quiet Strength by Tony Dungy. Tony Dungy was an NFL coach, won a Super Bowl with the Colts. He actually coached Tampa Bay Buccaneers, got fired, and the next year they won a Super Bowl. So a lot of people would say he actually was the guy that got that team to where they needed to win that Super Bowl. But when I read this book, I was about to go into coaching, right? Young guy out of college, about to start coaching high school athletes. And if you know the college atmosphere of coaching, it could be fear driven, a lot of language. And then you take that up a level to the pros. And it's like, this is business. I talk to you how I want to talk to you. I use the language I want to. So cursing is no stranger to the NFL, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so reading through this right before I started a coaching career was perfect timing, because Tony Dungy was the opposite of those things. Hence the title, Quiet Strength, that you can have strength, while still carrying the values that you believe, that you should live with. And so Tony Dungy said, I'm not going to cuss, and I'm not going to talk down to players. Doesn't mean that he may not raise his voice or get excited, but he was not going to degrade anybody and use any language that he felt was off-putting, right? And so I read that, and then I went into an environment. I went to Estacada High School. At first I was at Brady High School for a year. I went back to my hometown, and Glenn Jones was a coach that he did not degrade players and he did not cuss, right? And I loved watching that. I respected him immensely. And then I went to Estacada High School, where Tony Wagner, head basketball coach I worked for, that would not cuss or use language in practice. And in an environment where a lot of people let players get away with that, he did not let that go, right? And also, I had major temper issues, man, growing up. Like, I share that, a lot of people, now that know me, I'm glad they don't think that.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it. That's great. Yeah.
And we've gotten to talk about that before. But just knowing, especially in competitive and sports environments, right?
Just brings out the best of you, doesn't it?
Brings out the best, man. It was just like, I just wanted to win, just wanted to win. Just one of those things that's in me, right? And so in reading this was, okay, how do I take that through coaching? But now it's gone into real estate. So when somebody comes on our team and they get to hear me negotiate a deal where maybe an agent is a little bit gruff on the other side, that you can be firm while not losing your values or raising your voice or losing your temper or cussing at them, even if you have to say, hey, we may need to take a break from talking to each other and let's just pick this up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And just not letting it get to a spot that I don't want to go, to the point where a few times, right, somebody gets all fired up, and there's a lot of negotiation that goes on, a lot of emotions in real estate from sellers and buyers, and we're representing them. Where I've had accountability before, where I've just said, hey, gone to my broker, I need to make this call on speakerphone. This person's cussed me out a couple times, and I just want to make sure I don't go there. I just want to stay professional. So just inviting accountability in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so this book is all about that, but you get to hear stories of the NFL and coaching and players and how they won the Super Bowl and all these things. So you stack the values on top of the sports, and I'm all in, man. So
yeah,
it's a good one.
Man, there's so much respect too. And I have not read this book. I'm actually excited to pick it up and dive into it. But man, I just think about when I'm on the other side of that phone call and somebody is just coming at me, the level of respect that changes, and whether or not that I'm really listening or just kind of shutting down or shutting off.
Yeah.
Versus the respect you have when you're calm, when you're listening and you're responding in a way that's just civilized and respectable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it changes how you receive it on the other side and probably makes you go a lot further in that conversation.
Yeah.
And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm excited about this. We're going to be giving this book away. So you're going to get to write a little note in it just as encouragement to anybody watching. And then we're going to give it away. So somebody else is going to get the opportunity to be impacted by it. So I love that. Yep. And then the last question is how would you define leadership in a single sentence?
Man, there's so many great definitions, and it's something in this realm of just leadership is using your influence to help people shift their mindset so they have a belief in themselves that there's even more for them, right? That's it. I want people to be around me, to be influenced, to say, I think differently, and now I believe in myself because I'm around him, and I think even more is possible. That's it, man.
That's awesome. So shifting your mindset so that there's a belief in themselves. Not just you believing in them, but now they're believing that from within.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I've seen you model it out before, 100 times over. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being a leader where you're at Keller Williams, with the Whisenhunt group, with your family, with Maverick Roofing, with these kids. Like, just thank you for being that leader. And I'm hopeful that people watching are just going to be like, who is this guy? How do I find out more about him? And I think they will. So just thank you for just continuing to make waves in the world around you. You're awesome.
I want to echo that, man, and say a lot about who you are, because I got to work alongside you and see like a lot of these things we talk about that I want to embody, that I'm also attracted to, and got to see that in you, just being so consistent, man. So loyal, hard worker, values, Christ-like, a dad, a husband, man, all those things, to see what you're doing now and leading a business and leading Lubbock. Man, there's going to be a lot of great come from this, but it's because you're taking a step out in faith and saying like, dude, let's go make leaders better, and we can get the podcast all over the place from a national, worldly perspective, but to say here in Lubbock, who is it that I can go to lunch or coffee with? They call you, go sit down with you. Dude, you're doing awesome stuff, man. I've always respected you a ton, and know that I love you, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was a lot of awesome words in there. So, dude, thanks for joining us today. I'm sure it's not going to be the last time. So we'll circle back to that again at some point in time. So, hey, thanks, man.
Thanks,
appreciate
bud.
you.
This is great.